All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. This is another piece of our CDFI Credit Union Practitioner course. Today, we're very fortunate to have MJ Green with us. MJ is previously at Dade County Federal Credit Union, correct? Correct me
Yep,
if I'm
Dade County Federal Credit Union.
great. And then now has recently moved over to Dade County. And so MJ is one of our alumni of the certification program. And we're happy to have him on today just to talk a little bit about partnerships and the work that he's done in that space, as well as the work in the credit union area and the credit union movement. So MJ, thanks so much for being on with us today. I'd like to just start off, if you could give, just an introduction to you, who you are, where you come from, and what really kind of drove you down the path of being at a credit union and then now at the county.
Sure. And so I first got my first start working for CDFI when I first got out of college. I got the opportunity to work for Justine Peterson, which is a nonprofit CDFI in St. Louis, Missouri. And kind of really fell in love with the impact I was able to have. I remember there were 2 loans that got turned down. The people didn't have maybe enough good enough credit score or whatever it was. And I went to the CEO and was like, oh, I really want to do these 2 loans. And he said, okay, yeah, if you want to do them, do them. And we did them, and both of those businesses are still successful today. And that was kind of a feeling that I was kind of really hooked on, to be able to give somebody that level of opportunity for not only their business, but their family and for their kids' lives and their kids' futures, and being able to send their kids to college and different things like that, and what it does for the community. I left there and worked for a couple of the bigger banks, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America. But most of the time I spent working for the Bank of Montreal in Seattle, working in wealth management. There I had no Black or brown clients. I had 1 female client, and I got the opportunity through a mentorship group that I was a part of. One of the other guys that was a mentor was on the board for CDFI, and they had closed down my wealth management office, and I was kind of just chilling, got a nice little severance package, and was relaxing, trying to figure out my next move. And he said, they could really use, your skill set and your help. And I really enjoyed that work. Worked there for about 3 or 4 months. Really liked it. Put out all the money they had in the 2 months or 3 months that I was there. And then at a conference, met a gentleman to talk me into moving to Miami to start the Community Fund of North Miami-Dade, which was a nonprofit CDFI, really focused on small business loans to minority small businesses. Did that for about 2 or 3 years, was pretty successful. And then in the peak of the pandemic, the Citibank Foundation reached out to me and some other CDFI leaders. And, everybody was really trying to figure out how we could support the little guys. This was during the very beginning of the pandemic, when PPP and EDIL were not reaching the small businesses, and definitely not the small minority owned businesses. Brought up the idea of a revolving loan fund, which we wind up calling RISE. And I think that, one of the great lessons that I learned in wealth management is, unfortunately, during economic downturns, one of the key things is to stay patient, and to look for the opportunities, because there are a lot of opportunities and doors open up. I think that was kind of the perfect storm. And the first time that the county had invested that much into small businesses, and especially in a small business vehicle that was a third party. So they put $25 million in that. We did 900 small business loans in a 6-month period, partnered with 3 local nonprofit CDFIs, and the fund is housed and administered by the Dade County Federal Credit Union. And they brought me on to administer that and really to pioneer their CDFI activities. They'd only been a CDFI for about a year and a half before I got there. But there, I really realized that I think that the group to lead the CDFI industry forward are going to be the credit union CDFIs. They can be so much more robust in nature. The other products and services they have complete the package of what low and moderate income people really need. And I think that because of the size, typically every single credit union CDFI is going to be larger than the average nonprofit CDFI by, almost 10x. And so with that size, it also allows you to take on larger capital, right? The nonprofit CDFIs that we were working with At the time couldn't have taken on $25 million because liquid, they maybe only had about $3 to $5 million, right? And you typically don't give someone more money than what they have. And so it was really a eye-opening experience and really worked with the credit union to kind of really pioneer and push that program forward. It won a couple of national awards and was extremely successful. And it's still, it's a revolving loan fund, so it should last in perpetuity and continue to help people out. And we also started a payday loan refinance program, which is doing really well now as well.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you for that kind of background. My next question that I have is, where with the CDFI certification and the capital opportunities, where did you see the strength of those two things in Dade County Credit Union? What were some of the kind of programs, solutions that were provided for members of the credit union?
Well, I think that, the RISE program, because it was looking and focusing on CDFIs and the ability that CDFIs have to really reach deep into communities is what brought the credit union to the table. The opportunity that I think that credit union CDFIs have are they're going to be naturally far better at the accounting management of that, right? The ability to have actual checking and savings accounts to be able to deposit the money, the multiple people that are in the back office to be able to handle the accounting is a huge benefit, especially the larger in size the undertaking is, right? I've worked for 3 different CDFIs now. I would say maybe the largest back office for any of them was maybe 3 or 4 people, right, on the accounting side, on the finance side, and I think at Dade County, there's upwards of 20, right? The robustness and the full suite of products is what I really think is kind of like differentiates them from the nonprofit CDFIs. And then you can kind of offer those other things too, right? A nonprofit CDFI cannot refinance somebody's auto loan, right? Or if they are refinancing auto loans, they typically aren't doing small business loans as well, or they can't do a personal loan. And so I think that those are the things that really make them different. Also, as uh, maybe difficult this is to say, the credit union CDFIs are regulated entities, right? And so that makes them a much more sound investment for the right investor, right? Typically, banks are not going to support the credit unions and give them money unless they're, a much smaller credit union. Dade County Federal Credit Union is a $1 billion credit union, so a lot of the banks feel like they are in the realm of competition. But for foundations, for the county, they're a kind of much better partner because they are regulated. Nonprofit CDFIs are not necessarily regulated. They're uh, certified by the CDFI fund, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the books are perfect.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, that is, and also, one of the challenges that we see with CDFI certification is that, the CDFI fund was established with, I think, loan funds and venture capital funds in mind. And so, when we talk about credit unions, there's still, I think, some education, knowledge, and awareness about how regulated institutions utilize that certification and really kind of amplify, the depths of what they can do with that certification. So it's a really great point. And kind of focusing in a little bit on some of the partnerships that you had while you were there at the credit union. Could you speak a little bit to some of the work that you did in building partnerships, or maybe some of the steps that you took and to create them or to sustain them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that anytime you're doing anything that's community economic development or economic development, you really have to work with partners, right? Because those partners are the trusted parties in the community. And what we were able to do is work with 3 nonprofit CDFIs and then a host of other business support and technical assistance providers throughout the county. If you look at the RISE report, there's a page of partners, and I want to say there's about 30, 40 partners on there, right? It was a real, true team effort. And if you're talking about a community as large as Miami-Dade County, everybody has somebody that they trust, or a nonprofit partner, or someone that they trust. And it probably is best if they're kind of making that warm handoff, right? Very similar to, if you're looking to get a job somewhere, it's best if somebody from the inside, brings your resume up. And so a lot of that is, getting people's trust and building those partnerships. And the way that we really did that is, we did it in an honest and earnest way, but we did pay those nonprofit CDFIs to participate, and some of our other nonprofit partners, right? They were able to get a part of the pot. The credit union obviously charged a fee to administer this fund, and we also separated some of those fees to support our nonprofit partners. The other thing that we really did is that because the program was so robust and people wanted to support it, but knowing that the traditional banks weren't going to necessarily support us, we passed that support on to our nonprofit CDFI partners, right? And so I want to say, I think one of the CDFIs made a little over $1 million in a 6-month period by participating in the program, right? And I think that is kind of one of those things where the rising tide raises all boats, because we really made sure that we kind of looked out for the best interest of everyone. I think the other unique thing about partnership is a true partnership is finding your lane and staying in it, right? Or creating, real clear lanes and trusting your partners to be able to do that. The credit union doesn't provide any technical assistance, right? We're not helping people fill out their local business tax receipt. We're not doing cash flow planning. That's not our area of expertise, and we need to hire people to be able to do that. But there are organizations and nonprofits in the community that have been doing that for years, and so we use them to be able to do that. And we kind of really stick to our lane on what we're good at: lending money, the accounting piece, the underwriting piece, and really just doing that. And doing that at a high clip is what we kind of stuck to, so that allows, and the way that Rise is set up is that partners can really plug and play, right? If you're a nonprofit that offers business services to help businesses be more robust or help them with some level of technical assistance, what you don't have is loan capital. And that is what we do have, right? And so connecting those two things together are mutually beneficial relationship. The nonprofit gets a win because their client or customer was able to get a loan, and they helped them do that, right? And so we were very forthright and open with our underwriting and the guidelines, and still are today. I mean, we really share that. We share the scorecard saying, hey, if you get so many points and do X, Y, and Z, it's 80-90% chance that you'll get the loan. We can never guarantee it, right? Because there's all these other factors that go in there. But having people really know what they need to get the businesses to allows them to really be a an awesome partner, right? Anytime you're able to help someone access capital, you have basically become their best friend. And I think that there are a lot of organizations out there, not even just in small business, right? There are organizations helping battered women get back up on their feet, right? And if you can partner with them and say, okay, some of the bad debt that they had, credit card debt that they might have, run up to get away, or, in between jobs, if you're willing to refinance that, you're really helping out not only the individual, but also that partner almost really complete the package of what they're really trying to deliver. And so I think that by just really being great at what credit unions are doing already and finding those partners and programs that work, can really create real, true public-private partnerships.
That's so great, MJ. The one thing that I was thinking about is, just highlighting, staying, in the lane of service that you're an expert in, right? When it comes to the work that we do in credit unions, and then what partner organizations are doing. And then also, I mean, you mentioned those kind of building blocks of resources, and not just for the betterment of that individual or the partnership, but even the overall cause, the overall movement of, making resources more available, like readily available to individuals, but really kind of moving the line, right, of those efforts. So yeah, that's really great work. The one thing I was thinking about, I think the next question that I had was, in particular to the CDFI certification, how did you see that as a tool or a resource, or at what point did you see that the certification assists, in building onto those programs, or the baseline of the credit union, or what is, in your perspective, how did it help?
And so I think it helps by, the capital that it allows you to access, right? Um, Although the RISE fund did not come from the CDFI fund, the credit union was brought to the table only because it was a CDFI, right? The program kind of started out as, we want to work with these CDFIs to support the underserved community that they've been supporting for forever, because that is the nature of a CDFI. We were able to get $25 million grant from the county, but then we also, because we did that work and got that money out there, we got about a $500,000 from the CDFI FA fund to work as loan loss reserves, right? And so I think that there are, when you talk about regulation and different things like that, I think that that's a way in which CDFIs can get certified, use those dollars and apply for those programs to take a step deeper into the communities in which they're willing to serve, take on a little bit more risk because you're able to get these loan loss reserves. And that should, allow you to take on a deeper step in helping out a disadvantaged or low income community and taking on a bit more risk. And so that $500,000 is used to be able to do that, right? The RISE fund, we were lending to individuals that needed to have a 520 or above for a small business loan, right? I think that that's a little bit unheard of, right? Now, all the money was grant dollars, which also too allows you to take that deeper step, right? But I think that being a CDFI, that certification is going to allow you to have conversations with foundations and to have conversations, hopefully, with your local government that aligns with them being able to do that work. I almost think of it very much as like um, some of the environmental companies and some of the stamps and certifications that go through that, right? That sort of the certification is basically the entity saying, the certain entity saying, yeah, these people do work, they do good work, and they can be trusted to do that. And so I think that that's the way that it was really leveraged. The other thing that we were able to get and be creative with, I want to push back, and since you gave me the mic to say, I think that there were some uh, credit unions that got rapid response grants and used them for their traditional lines of business. I would have liked to seen them be a little bit more creative. We took our rapid response grant and stood up a $2 million payday loan refinance program, right? Where we will refinance, because it's free money, refinance anybody in Miami-Dade County out of their payday loan as long as they have a job, right? We're charging, 15% interest and down on that, right? They have the opportunity to educate through one of our partners who provides technical assistance. If they go through their workshops and do the required curriculum, it lowers their rate once a year by however many classes they take, and the rate can go as low as I think 8 or 9%. But using those free dollars to be creative. And what does that do? That brings in a whole bunch of new accounts, new members, where you're able to get refinance on auto loans, you're able to get deposits, those different things, right? They have to open up a checking account to participate in this program. They had to get a direct deposit sent to us to participate in this program, but you're offering a huge benefit for people to be able to get out of that high interest debt. The average interest rate for a payday loan in the state of Florida is 343%, right? And so even though 15% might sound somewhat high, I mean, it's hundreds of percentage points away from where they were. And I mean, that can be another couple $100, if not more, $500 for people to really be able to feed their families.
Wow, yeah, that is so impactful. And I mean, I imagine that, with a program like that, there has to be just like that, like what you were talking about the trust and building those relationships with partner organizations to ensure that the technical assistance is happening or the additional support that's needed is happening. So that's just really great. I love the fact of thinking about, how you can continue to push the bounds to be out of the box for what your members need and in a timely response, right? Based on where we are in the world, that looks different for every individual or every community. So yeah, thanks for highlighting that. The last thing that I was thinking about, and then I think we've got some good content. I know you'll be with us on the session to do a Q&A as well. But what do you think on the horizon now that you're, with the county and thinking about, where you've been with the credit union? What kind of things do you think are potential in partnerships to continue to bridge that gap, right? Like, what are some things that you're thinking about that would be good resources for credit unions to think about?
Sure. In my role as Director of Economic Development for the county, a lot of my job when it comes to small businesses is kind of still the same, right? Still working closely with the Rise Fund. We just had a meeting with them, and we have a quasi-governmental entity that really focuses on the economic development for African Americans in Miami-Dade County. And I'm working on a partnership with them in the credit union so that they can work with Black businesses, help them get their documents in order, get everything ready, and then submit those to the credit union to be able to fund those loans for rides, right? We're also working and trying to be creative and looking for other grant opportunities and dollars to put into the credit union that will help finance um, contracts that businesses get with anchor institutions. So whether it's the hospital, FIU, or which is our local university, or the county, right? If you get a procurement contract for $100,000 to, clean floors 1 through 12, um, and we all know the stories of businesses getting contracts, and it might take 120 days, 200 days for them to get paid. Sometimes that kills a lot of small businesses, and the bureaucracy and slow payment, I think, is a thing that we want to improve, but still sometimes difficult to improve because it's got to touch so many different hands. But if we can kind of factor those contracts, I think that we can really support those businesses, right? We're not charging them a ton of interest, but if they can get the money up front to buy the supplies, to get things going, to get people working, then it kind of takes the detriment out of what can happen with some of those contracts, right? So we're still really focused on being creative. And I think that that's where we've got to like kind of, and the credit unions, I think, have the opportunity to do that, to think a little bit outside the box and figure out what works with you. I was working with a friend of mine that works with a lot of credit unions on a credit union that was in the like Virginia area, where there are a lot of veterans, and there's a huge demand for people with CDLs. And they applied for a CDFI grant to get some dollars to stand up a fund that would just finance veterans to buy trucks to be and to get their CDL license, right? Truck is easy to finance, at least it's a piece of collateral. I think that every credit union is used to financing auto loans. So how do you take some of that, use some of those dollars for loan loss reserves and match up? And a big part of what we wrote there was them partnering with the veteran services organizations throughout their footprint, which was a multiple state footprint that had a lot of veterans and a lot of support programs to build up that pipeline, right? The credit union doesn't have to build up the pipeline. Work with these partners who are already working with the people to build up the pipeline, help them get ready. Biden also has put some money out there for veterans and people to get their CDLs. And then there's a demand for it, right? Once they get the truck, it's not like they're going to have a hard time finding work, right? It really will then just be on the individual, but you're providing that opportunity, and it's a great story. And you have some collateral, right? So I think that the risk on that one is, you know, uh, uh, minimalized, right? But I think that the conversation starts with, what are you willing to do? What is the leadership most comfortable with, and then moving in that direction. I think that the Rise Fund was a unique opportunity, and everyone saw a demand. The large amount of money that the credit union was able to receive, right, made very little risk to the credit union, right? But there was a risk on their reputation if it didn't work out right. And the staff, I mean, everybody in the credit union worked tirelessly through the 6 months, which we had people working the day after Christmas, 8, 9, 10-hour days. We sent boots on the ground to businesses during the peak of the pandemic, right? So I think that it also has to do with a lot of the culture of the organization. I have to say the most important thing, and the thing that I think is really uh, I hope not unique, but awesome about Dade County Federal Credit Union is the CEO, George Joseph, was 150% supportive of taking these actions and really made it happen, right? So it starts from the top. So I think that those conversations have to start at the CEO level, and trickle down, because yeah, it's going to be more work for everybody, and it's going to be something different and something people want to learn. But I think it's a huge benefit um, to the credit union. I think that affects the bottom line, right? The credit union is definitely getting a fee on the $25 million. They're getting interest on the $2 million payday loan refinance program. We have received some other grants from foundations to support that work, and there's foundations that are interested in having that conversation. And I think that the other thing for the smaller credit unions, that there are a lot of people that want to support minority depository institutions, right? And I think that, becoming a CDFI, doing some of these good programs shows your skill set and being able to do that. And then I think you definitely can find the support out there because people are looking for them. I think that it's just a time where credit unions need to step up. They need to move a little bit out of just only doing auto loans, or very small personal loans to a paper. And I think that that aligns with the mission of where credit unions began and started. And I think that the CDFI mission aligns with that. And people need to be creative in their financing and figure out things that work for them. And so that's kind of where I really see things going. The county, we are working still closely with the credit union. We are, and I am constantly trying to come up with creative financing vehicles. So at the moment, right now, I'm working on a sustainable fashion fund to support and push Miami-Dade County sustainable fashion community forward and be able to provide capital for those businesses to grow, right? Fashion is the number 2 polluter. And if we all move to electric cars, it will move to number 1. And so how can we be a leader in that industry? I think that South America is already really focused on that because a lot of people live in the environment and are able to see tangibly the effects of climate change. We can see that here in Miami. And so that we can be a leader in that space and kind of help and support that industry. I think that then the fashion industry will grow around that. And so I think a lot of it is looking at opportunities, looking at what the risks that you're able to take and then jumping after that. I am a huge believer in CDFI credit unions. And I think that if more of them can take on and do some of the things that we were able to do at the credit union, we'll have a much better world. And I think that, in the current space we're in and the future of America, people care about how the organizations they support look, act, and what they do, right? Banks aren't doing this type of work. I think the credit unions have the awesome opportunity to kind of not even rebrand ourselves, but better explain our brand and our mission by doing this work. And at the end of the day, the difference between a checking account at Bank of America or Dade County Federal Credit Union is all the same shoebox, right? They might have more branch locations for us, but as long as my debit card works, I'm able to buy what I want to able to buy. It's almost the same for the user, right? Now, is their online banking a little bit snazzier? Sure. And I think that, we can get there with that as we, continue to take more market share and wallet share. But I think that I tell people all the time that everybody should have one major bank because you never know where you might be in the world to access your funds, one major credit card, and a credit union. And I think that that needs to be our message because we're going to do right by people. We're offering the best and most attractive rates. And then by supporting us, you're supporting these other programs that are supporting other people in the community. And I think if we can lead that message, all wrapped in a big, nice CDFI bow, we will leapfrog and really become real competitors to the banking industry and maybe, in a perfect world, make them do some of the things that we're doing as well.
Wow. Thank you so much, MJ. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. I love how passionate you are about this work. I love that you kind of live it and breathe it every single day, and that you're more than willing to come and share, where could we take the next step, or where can we find, kind of that gap and really drive forward what the mission is for credit unions in the movement, and then how CDFI work, how that's really exemplified amongst partnerships or just in the community overall. So I appreciate, as always, your perspective on the impact, and I'm really looking forward to having you in the class and then continued conversations going forward. So thank you so much for being with me today.
I really appreciate the opportunity to do this interview, and I think the opportunity to hopefully kind of explain the way that I see things, because hopefully I think that sheds some light, and other people can follow on the mission. Because I think that CDFI credit unions can really have a great impact in helping move the needle on the economic inequality that we face. I think that we are the best by far vehicle to be able to do that. And I think that we just need to band together, continue to create more innovative programs, and do the things that we do. and I think that that'll make a better world for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's continuing to kind of raise the DNA of our makeup and the work that we do. That's so heavily embedded in just the roots and the reason why credit unions were established in the first place. So thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you so much for walking the walk as you do every single day. And I'm looking forward to, future conversations and to keep, this conversation moving forward. So
Same.
awesome. Well, have a great rest of the day, MJ. Stay cool where you're at.
You too. I think it's rougher for everybody else
Yeah,
other than us. So,
absolutely. Have a good rest of the afternoon.
okay, awesome. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.